many people walked here today? How many people rode a bicycle? How many people drove? Okay. Carpool. How many people here have moved in their lifetime because of bad traffic? That number is going to change and increase over time. Take a look at this ad. This is an old 50s ad for a Bonneville. And it looks pretty good. You're in your car, top's down, the moon is up, it looks tranquil, and you are feeling pretty good. I can see myself in that car. It looks like maybe I might be going to my private yacht. And I think there's a martini there waiting for me. I'm going to buy this car. Right now, I'm going to go and buy that car. Well, it's not that easy anymore. And in reality, 80% of us are stuck in traffic. We drive 3 trillion miles in the United States every year. We have 250 million cars on the road. And 55% of the trips that we take are 10 miles or less. Now, these first two statistics are catalysts for change just by their sheer numbers. And the third is an enabler for change. Now, if you take a look at this photo, I don't think anybody is thinking, I got to get me some of that gridlock. I love that traffic. I'm going to go ahead and buy a car. If you can guarantee that traffic comes with the car, it's not going to happen. Now, there are alternatives out there that currently exist. And if you go to places like Copenhagen or Amsterdam, you find this unbelievable cycling infrastructure where the lanes are protected from the cars. They have the priority. And you will find 35 to 40% of the people in Copenhagen ride their bikes everywhere, rain, sleet, snow, or shine. And it's pretty fantastic. We have similar cities in the US without the same ridership. In DC, Madison, Minneapolis, Portland, of course. But then we have this sprawl. And we have these cities that are way more spread out than they are in Europe. And if you ask people who commute on a daily basis if it's possible for them to commute by bicycle, they will say, no way. It's way too far. If you live in Seattle or San Francisco, they will say, the hills are too prohibitive. I'll show up to work completely sweaty. I don't have a shower there, et cetera. There are these excuses. And so I started working on electric bikes about 10 years ago to try to enable people to get out of their cars, to make them feel comfortable, to travel a longer distance, or to flatten out those hills. And that's what we have today. We have a system that's able to assist a rider and his or her cargo, and in this case, a couple of very happy kids. Now, these two kids are exposed to a bicycle as a mode of transportation, not only as a mode of recreation. And that's the amazing thing for me, is that in our culture, bicycles have mostly been used for recreation, and if we foster a generation that can see the bicycle as a mode of transportation, they are going to demand that we have better infrastructure and demand that we continue this, just like what we see in Copenhagen. Now, this project started with me as part of an addiction I have to try to use the least amount of energy to go from point A to point B. And that has been a problem for people. In college, my roommates would not be pleased with me when we would go on road trips because I did not want to stop for a bathroom break because it would ruin my car gas mileage. Don't stop at the gas station, don't stop at the rest area. When they were just at their bursting limit, I would find a nice hill, pull the car out of gear, turn the car off, coast to the top of a hill. They could get out, go to the bathroom, and then when they came back in the car, or came back to the car, they would have to push the car to get it to start rolling, jump into the moving car, and then when I duct tape the seams on the hood and tuck in the side view mirrors, I would be able to get 48 miles per gallon in that car instead of 38. They get nervous when you turn off the car. And it doesn't have to be transportation, it can be any type of energy use. For me, I like to brew beer, and we have solar panels on our home, and I will only brew when the sun is like it is today, so that I can be sure when I'm sipping that beer later on, I know that every sip was brewed with the sun. Or my wife comes down at 6 in the morning and she wants to plug in an electric tea kettle. And I'm like, what are you doing? The sun isn't on yet. So she says, she turns it on. Poor Robin has to deal with this for the rest of her life, compared to my roommates for only 4 years. So what I've got here is different modes of transportation going from point A to point B, and the amount of energy that it takes to get there. Some you're very familiar with, like this early 90s Honda Civic, 40 miles per gallon. They're all normalized to a gallon of gasoline because we all have this feeling of understanding of what a gallon of gas is. Pickup truck, 20 miles per gallon. Brand new Prius C, 50 miles per gallon. This old vintage motorcycle, 65. And if an airplane is full, 90 miles per gallon. That's a lot better than it used to be, about double. My personal favorite is a train. Trains, if they are full, get somewhere between 800 and 1,000 miles per gallon. And for me, that's my target as an engineer, to try to create something that gets that kind of efficiency as a personal vehicle. Now then we've got pedestrians and bicyclists. The pedestrian gets 55 miles per gallon, and the cyclist gets 270. Now these numbers are actually a little bit low because the food that you eat all requires energy to be delivered to you. So if you've got an orange from Florida or an apple from Washington or a kiwi from New Zealand, there is energy required to deliver that to you. And so your efficiency is dropped based on the food that you eat. Now we all have a metabolism, and you all require fuel or food to stay alive, and your metabolism is actually 25% efficient. Just about the same as that Honda Civic, actually. Now, food around here is a big thing. We all have this relationship with our local farmers, and they all create art that we eat. And this is Scott from Small Potatoes Farm. And not only does he create food that I enjoy, it's nutritious, and it is fresh, and I love it, but he also delivers his produce by electric bike. Oh my God. And take a look at this photo. There is nothing negative about this photo. He is not in pain. He is in love with his transportation, and the people that he delivers it to love it as well. And I look at this photo and I think, we should print up 200 million of these and put them on the visor of everybody who is in gridlock. And when the panic sets in, you pull it down. Oh, Scott. It's cheap mental health care. So what happens when you eat Scott's food? Well, your efficiency rises. The pedestrian goes up to 70. And these poor cyclists who clearly are not happy, riding in the rain, they go up to 340 miles per gallon. That's a pretty good uptick. Then what happens if you add an electric motor to a bicycle? So you're creating a hybrid. You are 25% efficient. The motor, if it's done correctly, is 80% efficient. You merge those two together. And if your energy output is 50% and and the motor's output is 50%, then you have another uptick in efficiency. So this cargo bike is 480 miles per gallon with 2 kids on the back. It's pretty good. Commuter bike, 570 miles per gallon. Now then if you add Scott's Food back into the mix, then we have that uptick again. So then we're up to 600 miles per gallon and 710. So then, what if you were to feed your motor local food too? And instead of taking a chunk of fuel and taking it to Craig, Colorado, 200 miles away, chucking it into an oven, making some steam, turning a turbine, making some electrons, and sending it all the way back here with a 65% loss in that round trip, which is totally unacceptable. What if you fed it local food? And by that I mean one 250-watt solar panel. Well then, from 270 miles per gallon on a regular bicycle, eating that local food, feeding your motor local food, you all of a sudden get 1,340 miles per gallon. And so who knew that just by adding these little things like local food and a motor, you could have personal transportation over 1,000 miles per gallon. Now compare this to an electric car. It doesn't really matter. A Leaf, a Tesla, what do they get? They get 114 lousy miles per gallon. That's no good. Why is that good? Why is that acceptable? You are going to be miserable in this car. You're just going to be stuck in traffic. You may have HOV status in California, but really, everybody else is going to start buying those cars to get HOV status, and you're going to be stuck, just like the guy next to you in the lane over. So take this car, take it down to the local liposuction clinic, and then you're going to suck out 3,000 pounds out of this car. And what do you get? You get an electric bicycle that's going to make you a lot happier. So there are all these reasons why people are making these changes. Number one, of course, for me, is reduce energy consumption. Number two is this happiness, trying to make sure that you are a lot happier in your transportation. Then, of course, there's money. In San Francisco, there is a 7 to 9 month payback on a $5,000 electric bicycle. And that's when you eliminate the parking, the tolls, the O&M of the car, the insurance. That's a very fast payback. So then we've got technology advancement. A lot of people like to have the new gadgets. They like to foster the production and the evolution of new products, and that's a reason for them to do this. Then there's time. If you can get from point A to point B in a third to an eighth of the time that you could in your car, that's also a no-brainer. And then there's mental health, stress relief. If you go from point A to point B, if you drive in the morning and you're stressed out, and you drive home in the evening and you're stressed out, how is that good? How is that good for you, for your coworkers, for the nation? That's not good. Don't do it. Get rid of it. That's like asking an engineer to come up in front of a group of actual real people and talking to them 600 times a year. My stomach would completely dissolve. Health benefits alone. We could talk about this for a few hours, but basically, if you go back to that third statistic, 55% of our trips are less than 10 miles. If we took 1% of those in 2016, we would avoid 17 billion miles in the US alone, and 2.2 million Americans would lose between 25 and 50 pounds. And so if you talk to healthcare professionals today, what are they going to advise you? Get more exercise and lose some weight. And our system is already bursting at the seams. Now then there's breaking your dependence on the car. People sometimes, that part of their anxiety is that they feel like they're tied to their car, whether they have to take their kids from from just 3 blocks away to a 30-mile drive. Now, if you're not analytical and you look at all these reasons and you don't think in this terms, maybe there's just a pull in the back of your brain and you are trying to emulate what you felt when you were 5 years old on a bicycle. And I will take that any day. Or maybe you're just looking to be a good Samaritan and pull a poor guy who got stuck recently on the side of the road. He just needed more torque. The poor guy. So here we are in Paonia, Colorado, which may not seem like the most likely place for e-bike R&D, but we're pushing the envelope here and doing it with one very happy vegetable at a time. And so I hope all of you have some joy in your transportation future. Thanks.